Hey everybody, I can finally do another devlog. It's been a couple months. Work has been really busy, so I didn't have a lot of time to dedicate to ANSIWAVE. But I found some time recently and I finally took care of something that was long overdue, and that was uh, moving the BBS off of Amazon S3 and onto my own servers. Uh, and they're geographically distributed like a CDN. So right now there's only three, but I'm going to add a lot more. There's one in the US, there's one in Europe, there's one in Australia, and so it will serve, whichever one is closest to you is the one, ideally, that you will be served when you access it. So it should be faster. Uh, and I mean both the terminal and the web version. You should notice at least some modest improvement. Because I know some people were complaining it was taking like 5 seconds for something to load. You can see here, at least on my connection, it's pretty good. There's still room for improvement, and I think I am going to improve it, because I had to write my own server. I wrote it in Clojure, and it's a combination web server and Git server. So it provides the Git repo as well. And it's all written in Clojure, and there's plenty of kinks that I need to work out, but I think it's still, pretty fast, and at least for me, a lot faster than it was before. Because before it was using Amazon S3, which, as far as I know, doesn't do a lot of caching. It's just serving out of a single data center. And on top of that, yeah, the SQLite technique that I use here certainly adds some latency because it's constantly requesting tiny pieces of SQLite files. I still think that this technique has a really big future. And I think, as you can see here, as long as you are using proper techniques, it can still feel fast. And it has a lot of huge advantages. So I'm still 100% on board with the idea. But yeah, it was quite slow for a while. So this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And yeah, in addition to that, because I'm moving on to my own stuff, it allowed me to reevaluate some things, because a lot of the design decisions that I made were because I was intending to use an object store like S3. And, one of the big limitations of them is they don't allow partial updates of files. If you want to update a file, you got to replace the whole thing. And so you can imagine with something like a bulletin board where you got a lot of data stored in a SQLite file, that file is going to get bigger and bigger, and it's going to get slower and slower to update. And that's why I used this technique. You can see in this old version of the repo, I was splitting the database file up into chunks. And this worked reasonably well. It was hard to get it to work because I had to use this extension to SQLite, which was just old crusty C code that I had to dust off and clean up. And I got it to work. I was quite proud of myself, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, this is not code that I want to maintain, and it's really caused by the limitations of S3. Well, I'm not bound by those limitations anymore because I'm using my own servers. So I don't need to use the S3 API to copy files. So I was like, well, why am I multiplexing the database anymore? I don't need to do this. So in the new repo, it just looks like that. It's just a single board.db, and not only is that simpler because I could rip off a lot, I could tear away a lot of old code and throw it away, but also it's a lot easier to inspect with external tools, like the SQLite command line tool. I could just open it up and be like, select star from user. And that's the kind of stuff I couldn't do before, because when the file was broken up in chunks, external tools didn't know what to do with it. So it's just a big simplification to finally get rid of that. And I was able to change some other stuff too. Like in the old repo, I was compressing all of the posts because S3 didn't really do compression for you. But I'm running my own server now. I can compress things on the fly like most web servers do. And also Git compresses data on the disk for you. At least, data, stored in pack files and whatnot. So there's not a lot of value to compressing stuff yourself before you commit it to the repo. So now I'm just not compressing it. These files are all just uncompressed, whatever, text files. So you can see here, you can even read it. So I was able to make those changes, and I decided, well, if they're all going to be breaking changes, I may as well do them all at once. So yeah, if you're using the terminal client, you have to download the latest version because the old ones are not going to work anymore. And if you were cloning the Git repo, you're going to have to clone it again. So just look at the website and get the new URL right there, because the old one is not going to work. I don't like to do breaking changes like that, and I want to avoid it as much as I can, but this was a chance to reevaluate some old decisions. So I was like, not many people are using the BBS right now anyway, so I may as well just, clean up some stuff while I still have a chance, and it'll be better. So yeah, so the repo format changed quite a bit, but all the old data is still there, and yeah, it's just like much better prepared now for like improving it. And yeah, so there's plenty of feature work that I want to do now, like, improving the threading and improving the scripting language, but it just depends on when I get spare time. But I'm really happy I at least did this, because this was really bothering me for a long time, and I finally was like, screw it, I'll just do a little marathon coding session over the weekend and just get it done. So that's what I did. And another thing I was thinking about while I was doing this, I was thinking about all the work that I've been putting into making this framework that lets me make a terminal app that also runs in a browser. And I was like, well, maybe some of this stuff is reusable. And so one thing I'm thinking about doing is making a little library for making terminal programs and exporting them to web browsers as well. And in addition to that, I even have a third platform I want to target. So this is a unreleased thing, but I've been experimenting with running ANSIWAVE in OpenGL So this is an example of that. This is the BBS running in a native OpenGL window. And everything works exactly the same. In fact, it's almost visually exactly the same as the web version. But this is a native OpenGL window. And so potentially I could provide more of like a desktop experience with it. But also maybe other people have uses for that, like making a terminal program that also runs in OpenGL. So my idea is to make some kind of library that lets you write one code base and targets all three. Because I haven't seen anything that can do that. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel there's this resurgence of text-based programs. So I think this could be a part of that because I think NIM is really well suited for it. So, I'm still using Clojure, especially server side. Like I mentioned, I wrote the server side component of this in Clojure, but for the client side stuff, yeah, a library like that I think would be pretty dope. So I'm gonna probably work on that at some point, and just do whatever other stuff I can think of with ANSIWAVE. Let me know if you run into any problems or if it feels slow for you. I'm really hoping there's a noticeable improvement, but it may depend on where you are. And so I don't always have control, but I think it should be faster. And I hope you like it. If not, then screw you.